Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd. Of course, your trusted small business advocate, lover of all things admin and BAS agent bookkeeper with Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H. And we've got some absolutely fantastic guests on the show today, and it's a topic that I've been wanting to cover with my small business listeners for a couple of years now. It's all about trying to keep healthy and fit and how that ties into running a small business and how important it is to be conscious of certain elements that you have when either you're working or not working, your stress levels, what you drink, what you eat. It all ties into being a successful business owner, because without looking after yourself, well, you don't really have... I guess you don't have the backbone of your business. You are the business. And in so many cases around here, especially in our area of Sydney, a lot of people run their business and they are the only employee, or you are a sole trader of your business, which means that without you, there isn't one. And if we look at what's been happening around Sydney these last few weeks with the terrible flu season that we've had, we've probably got quite a number of business owners out there who say, well, when I'm taken down, my whole business goes down with me. So we're really excited to have a couple of special guests on the show today. So let's talk today about better workplace health for small business. And we've got very special wellness experts, Dr. Louis Jen and Ingrid. No, I'm not going to get that right, am I, Ingrid? How do you pronounce your last name? Manugian. Yeah, I did practice that, but that was, no, fail. So this is a topic that, as I said, I've been kind of looking for the right person to talk about this, and I'm really excited to have you guys on the show because you are experts. Now, tell me a little bit about your practice firstly. You're based down in Chatswood?
Yes, that's correct. Complete Health Chiropractic has been one of the longest standing chiropractic practices in the Upper North Shore. We've been operating there for well over 20 years.
And it's not just chiropractic that you do, though, is it? Because you've got some fantastic workshops running. Yes. You do engage with your local small business community. You've been on the Chatswood community radio station as well, telling and educating businesses. So you're obviously quite passionate about your role in the community.
Yes, 100%. I think definitely what we'd really like to, or very passionate about, is really getting people to live that healthier lifestyle and that kind of an overall picture of health, and just making sure people are being proactive.
Indeed. And not only as business owners, I suppose, which is what today's focus is, but obviously as people too. Yes. Like, because at the end of the day, Ingrid, we are parents, we are members of the community, we are volunteers, we are business people, we're everything.
Yeah, that's it. And it's definitely what Louis mentioned before, being proactive about those things rather than reactive and waiting for things to happen and then we kind of respond. And I think that's the same with small business. You've got to be over everything before it kind of happens so that you're successful and you're moving forward rather than just reacting to what's happening around you.
It'd be nice if the politicians took a little bit of that under their belt too. So broadly, we've got a concept here that you talk about quite a lot in your workshops and in your practice, which is move well, think well, eat well. Could you maybe just explain that to me a little bit, Ingrid?
Yeah, so it's with the kind of that whole holistic approach to health. And when you kind of really break it down, it's actually looking at what the human body or what people require at that sort of base level or that fundamental level. So if we kind of really approach it as a puzzle, a health puzzle, and they all kind of fit together to create that one whole, then we've got to move and exercise regularly. We've got to fuel our body with the proper nutrition, and we've got to also have that mindset where we're in that positive mindset moving forward. So with all those things, there's also rest and digest, and we'll kind of touch on that briefly as well, because that's a really important part. And I think for small business owners, that downtime is kind of hard to access sometimes.
Yeah, because it is. There's a heavy reliance on yourself, and if you physically or not, let's forget about the physical side of things altogether for a moment, because we do sort of tend to focus these days on the body. But the mind, obviously, just as important. Mental health, just as important. I was really glad to hear the other day about, workplace relations, encouraging people to take, hang on, I'm going to get this wrong. Is it mind days? No. Brain days? No,
either of those would be good.
It's when you take a day off for your mental health. Yes. Mental health day. That was it. Sorry. Right. Yes. That was hard. So you take a mental health day, which is we try and encourage small businesses to be conscious of that with their employees too. So it's obviously a key loss of productivity. Let's take half of Sydney's population losing it with the flu. Have you seen people come to you almost exacerbated needing treatment because they've been unwell as well? Is that sort of part of the process?
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of people, and that's that kind of reactive mindset, is they'll wait till they're in that state before they have to do something about it. So when we're kind of talking about the health puzzle and those different facets of that health puzzle, they really do need to be balanced across that and not letting the ball drop in one area until it's that point of kind of getting sick or being unwell or not being able to work, but doing things in your lifestyle, in your workplace, in your business that actually promote health so you don't get to that point.
And Louis, speaking of being sort of proactive, can you give me some specific examples that rather than, waiting till you're at death's door with the flu or having thrown out your back because you've been sitting badly, what are some things that people can do every day to be a bit more proactive?
Yeah, so that kind of comes back to, the concept of, move well, think well and eat well, is we kind of broken down that health puzzle in those pieces, and what we do is we kind of encourage people to look at those pieces and trying to fulfill as much of those pieces as possible. So things like making sure that you're taking regular breaks throughout the day. We generally suggest, because as a society we're now sitting for so much, that we generally recommend every 30 to 40 minutes you should be really getting up and moving, and just creating a bit of, I guess, injecting movement into your day.
What do you consider to be moving? I mean, for me, I'm so stagnant sometimes when I'm got my head down, bum up, that it's literally just stand.
Yeah. So
it doesn't count, does it?
Yeah. So we generally say about, if you get up and out of your chair and you kind of even just marching on the spot for a couple of minutes is better than just sitting for hours and hours and hours for an extended period of time. But obviously, if you can walk to, maybe get a drink of water, maybe during your lunch break, go outside and have a bit of fresh air, that's obviously going to be the best.
Essentially, get a dog. Have a dog in your office.
Why not?
That maybe one person looks after and has, but everyone has to walk it every day. It's like, it's your turn to walk the dog.
100%. Or even when you were saying that you stand, that is better than sitting. So there's kind of a bit of a saying that stand to work, sit to rest. So a lot of what we do is we sit for the entirety of our day in the office or our day at work. But a standing desk is obviously great for that. You can kind of change levels and change what you're doing and do different tasks, standing, different tasks sitting. If you don't have that option, then setting regular reminders to even do something that is a standing task and come back to sitting after that period is better than sitting all day.
And if you have a bottle of water on the desk, preferably not plastic, you should be drinking out of aluminium or glass or something, but it makes you wee.
Yes.
Which is good, which makes you get up every 45 minutes or so, which is also very, very good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned standing desks. Now, I'm sure there's a couple of people out there going, I don't have a spare $2,500 for a standing desk. But you don't have to do that anymore. You can actually get from some of the major retailers, you can get ones that sit just on your desk and they're adjustable.
Yeah.
And then you can sit up and down.
Yeah. Or even if you don't have the space for that, really setting up your workstation ergonomically, you can do little small changes that can be helpful for that. So one of the main things is using whatever chair you are using, really using that chair and scooting your bottom right back to the base of the chair and using the back support. And then with your screen, working off the laptop is never really ideal, but if that's the way that it's going to happen, putting that up on some books so that you can actually bring that screen to eye level.
Of course, you know what, that's so funny because my husband we've got one laptop stand, but now we both work off laptops when we're at home. I didn't even think of just going and getting some, pity we don't have phone books anymore, but at least just getting some books, exactly. Yeah, that's a great idea.
100%.
And you can get those plug-in, what do you call it?
The wireless keyboards.
Thank you. No, not wireless. Wireless is bad, Louis, because then you've got to get batteries and you have to replace them and batteries are bad. You get the plug-in ones. Who cares about the extra wires? And you get plug-in ones and they last longer anyway. I've had mine for years and years and they don't tend to die. But, put them up on books. That's a great option. Now, what are you thinking on the giant balls? Are you a fan of as a chiropractor, are you a fan? Do they actually engage your pelvic floor muscles and all that stuff? Are they good?
A great thing to have, I think, in terms of
very
having
90s.
it around. Yeah, very 90s, yeah. But probably the only thing with that is it may encourage you to sit for longer because you kind of got this movement happening, and really that sitting position is not great for our digestive system. It's not great for, all the joints and everything to be in that position for a long time. So you're actually probably better to sit in that chair. And the other thing with the ergonomics is actually 90-degree angles. So at the hip from the leg up to the torso, 90 degrees, and then where your hands sit on the desk, so at the elbow, 90 degrees.
90 degrees. So 90 degrees is the rule for all of your joints.
Yeah.
Except for your neck.
Except for your neck. That is on top of your shoulders.
Yeah, so that's some really good tips there. Just go and get some books, go and get a plug-in keyboard that you can just have sitting there. Because I've actually recently just moved out of my office and I'm sitting on the dining room table because it's the only place where I can really spread out. Yeah. And that's okay because you can pack everything up and put it into a little box at the end of the day. But I do have to be really strict with myself and put my thing on the laptop stand. Don't take the easy way out. Plug everything and get myself set up. And as you know, I was telling you during our meeting, I have a wooden chair that I sit on, an absolutely solid wooden chair that I've hunted around all the secondhand shops to find, and it makes me sit up.
Yeah,
I can't just relax and sit back. My husband, on the other hand, has a $8,000. You know, those ridiculous. What are they called? No, not they're $1,200 chairs. They're Henry Kissinger knows wrong, but yeah, they're really expensive chairs. But ever since he's had those, he doesn't tend to need them anymore. But I know there's a lot of thought about the whole standing sitting thing. Yeah. Definitely much better. Definitely. And you said you mentioned that there's actually an app.
That's correct. Yeah. So there's an app kind of developed by our association, the Chiropractic Association of Australia, which basically prompts you you can set it, we usually say you want to set it to about 40 minutes. So every 40 minutes there's a bit of a pop-up that comes up on your phone, and it reminds you to get up out of your chair, go do a bit of a stretch, march on the spot, but also gives you, little health tips on how to kind of obviously help you get through the day.
Yeah. And all that ergonomic stuff is included in the app too, so to kind of have a bit more of a visual of the 90-degree angles and that sort of stuff, that's all in there. And that one is
Straighten Up app is the name, and
Excellent.
It's completely free.
Awesome. We like free stuff. So that's great. And don't forget, everybody, these principles that we're talking about with Move Well is very important to think about when you're working from home. Yes, it's very nice at the end of the day to sit down with a glass of wine and do your invoicing. I'm talking to every small business owner out there, while sitting on the couch with your feet up, but you must admit that after a few minutes your neck and your back does start to hurt, and the rounded shoulders, and it's not great. How about just don't work after 9 o'clock? Here's a thought. Just don't work. Look, we're going to take a short break and listen to some community service announcements. You'll be back after these short announcements on Small Biz Matters after this. So today we've got some great guests in the room. If you've missed any of today's show, make sure that you listen to the podcast on smallbizmatters.com.au, of course. And we're here with Complete Health Chiropractic, which is a wonderful practice down in Hornsby, Chatswood, down in Chatswood. And they're sharing with us a concept that they've been working with when it comes to not only small business owners, but the general community. Move well, eat well, live well. Did I miss one?
Think well.
Think well.
Thank you. Talking about
next. So let's cover off the think well concept, which just before the break we were talking about standing well. No, I'm going to get that wrong as well. Move well.
Oh, that's right.
Let's do think well. So think well, very important, as we mentioned. It's important to allow for your staff to have mental health days. Everyone has their bad days, and that's okay. And sometimes we just need a break. So take me through some of those processes.
Yeah, so really, I think with current society, it's kind of has us in this kind of a go mentality where everything's really accessible. We're constantly engaged, we're constantly stimulated, and really that kind of adds up over time, and it has an impact on our overall bodies. And we're not really designed to function like that. There's as Ingrid mentioned earlier, a branch of the nervous system where we should be, which is dedicated to rest and digest. So we should be in this state majority of the time, and that's really where we're healing.
So not
recovering, but we're not. Yeah. So and basically this overstimulated, overstressed state then causes us to be in this kind of fight and flight, where we're reacting to things. We're in this reactive behavior, but really the truth is stress is good. We like stress. It can allow us to be productive, but how much stress we encounter and where stress kind of falls in our day is really, really important. So a good example that we see a lot of is, as small business owners, it's really easy for us to wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, open our laptops, and before you know it, you're addressing emails, 6:30 in the morning, right? And then before you know it, you're then reacting to something that's urgent for someone else, but it's not important to you.
That's a really good point, actually, that whole reactive mentality we have with, some people are just so quick off the mark with those emails, and you kind of think, I didn't phone you. This should be a hierarchy. When you phone someone, you need to speak to them. That's why you're phoning them or shouting at them across the room. And then there's texting, and texting is like, not super urgent. But emails, really not on the urgency scale important. But some people are just so quick that they think that in order to be a good business owner, I have to be super fast at getting back to my clients. And what you're better off doing is training your clients to understand that you are human.
Yes.
That you are an expert, but you will function better without the pressure or the stress.
Exactly.
And that reactive thing. And for God's sake, don't pick up your phone at 6 o'clock in the morning. Don't have it. The World Health Organization actually says not to have your phone plugged in next to you because it does emit gamma rays or something. I'm talking Star Trek now, but some rays come out of your phone and eat your brain, but don't have it plugged in next to you. And don't because you don't. Why is the first thing you're doing picking up your phone and checking emails? What the hell is going to happen at 6 o'clock in the morning that's so life-changing that,
That's it.
That's right.
And there's some strategies that you can kind of structure your day that way. So having times when you do check emails and times when you respond. And as you said, it's kind of training those clients that you will get to it. It's not that you're not doing it, but this is when it'll be done. And that actually helps with that mindset and actually giving you back control and putting you, as we've been talking about the whole time, in that proactive and making choices about what you're doing with your day rather than just reacting and getting on a bandwagon of doing this when really you're going to be more productive in your business if you've got your day set out and you're achieving and ticking off the to-do list, which is always really nice to do.
It's part of your reputation as well. If you get a reputation for being someone who's super quick to get back to people and then you don't because you're having a bad day, that people think you're slipping. And let's be realistic, because the reality is a lot of small businesses do their admin in the evening when they've got the time or the kids are in bed and that's when they're doing it. Okay, fair enough. But don't actually send those emails. Write them, save them, and when you get there in the morning at 9:01, then send them to your clients because they'll think that you did it in the morning, not at stupid o'clock at night. So there's a few little things you can do there to try and not be so reactive, and setting out your days is a great idea. I've heard of some people who just say, look, I actually got a bounce back email from someone when I was sending out the information about the event, and the bounce back said, I only read emails between 9 and 11 a.m. If this is urgent, please phone me. Otherwise, I'll get back to you during those times. And that's a great training mechanism for clients and for suppliers.
And that's what really we do with our people is we help them by really focusing on little small steps. Like, for an example, perhaps coming up with like a morning routine that's going to allow you to start your day off being productive. So little things could be gratitude mindset exercises where you start your day with 3 things that you're grateful for, and there's actually studies that indicate that if you begin your day with gratitude, that it can actually rewire your brain to have a more positive outlook in life.
I just had a brilliant idea, because all of us small business owners are also parents. Here's an idea. Don't go into your kids' rooms and start immediately yelling at them to get out of bed. What an awful way to start the day. Go in there, give them a sweet kiss and a cuddle, say, morning, darling, hi, how you going? A little bit of a nod, push them, shove them awake a little bit. And then 5 minutes later, you come in and scream at them. But it can't be 100% positive to just, it's that thing. We have to take on this mentality almost with every aspect, not just our business.
That's correct.
Or even taking that gratitude exercise, popping into the kids and sharing that thing that you're grateful with them. How good is that to wake up to mum or dad coming in and saying, today I'm really grateful that da-da-da-da.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that gratitude thing. I find it a bit, okay, but it's a mindset. And you need to train yourself.
That's it.
And if you're into that work mode, everything's running really quickly and I've got to do everything really quickly and it's this, well, just snap out of it.
Yeah.
And even if it's just a minute or 2 out of your day. No, it's a great way to think well, to be better. And I really like your point about the fact that stress is good for you because it does heighten your response and make you a little bit more efficient. So does coffee, but only once a day. Let's talk about eat well, Ingrid. So we talked about eat well, we've talked about move well, think well. Let's talk about eat well.
Yeah. So fueling that body, it's often a bit of a minefield. I think there's so much information out there of what we should and shouldn't do. There's lots of diets and things like that, which are often they might have great results for some people, not for others. And then at the end of the day, they're really not that sustainable for most people. They can be good for a short period of time, but in that long haul, it sort of falls apart. So it kind of, again, just like when we're looking at the requirements of the health puzzle for a person, then nutrition's the same. You've got to look at what the body requires to fuel itself, and that makes it really simple when you kind of go to that. Like, what does our body need? It needs carbohydrates, fats, good fats, and also protein.
Can you give me some good, because I think this is where we struggle as small businesses, that period at 11:30 and at 3 or 2:30 after meal has been digested.
Yeah.
What's some good snacks to have around the office?
Yeah, so taking it back to those three kind of, micronutrients or macronutrients of what the body requires, then it's just kind of finding things that fit into those categories. Nuts are a great little snack. They're easy to transport and keep with you. You don't need to heat them up or anything like that.
And don't buy the salted ones?
Yeah, maybe not the salted ones, yeah. But if that's your starting block, if that's your small change that you need to make and they need to be salted for a while, then it's better than grabbing something else like a chocolate bar or those kind of things. So it is about, that in moderation and making it easy for you to actually make that change and make that change into a habit. But yeah, nuts are great. Fruit's good, but you've got to kind of watch that's that sugar intake, even though it is packaged with awesome fibre and all that stuff. Veggies are great. Carrots.
Yeah, look, we were talking about this when we had our meeting, that there's lots of businesses out there who buy the harvest box and buy the fruit box for their staff, which is not necessarily great because you will get those sugar crashes, even though it's fructose. Why not mix it up with some veggies?
Yeah. Yep. And that's it. Like, it's all that moderation again. So fruit is awesome. It's really good. It's got your vitamin C. It's got your fibre. It's much better than, again, having something that's a bit more grab and go and processed. But it is, having that variation, mixing it up, looking for fun things that you actually like eating that taste good but happen to be healthy as well. So
what's that?
That's like your nuts and your veggies. Carrots are good.
and maybe some hummus?
Hummus,
Yes.
that's really good. Yeah, high in protein with your chickpeas. Yeah, so, and it is that avocado's a great snack. Those kind of things. It's probably a bit decadent when they're really expensive to crack open half an avocado and down it, but that's a really good snack that leaves you feeling really satisfied because it's a good fat.
Yeah, and feeling fuller for longer as well. Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm not a believer in that because when my husband makes really awesome porridge, he does very good porridge in the morning, I get hungrier earlier than if I have crappy. How does that work?
I don't know. It might be, and sometimes it's a combination of stuff too. So if you're going to look at a meal or something that you're having even as a snack, is it ticking the boxes of protein, carbohydrates and fats? And if it doesn't have enough good fats in it, sometimes it doesn't leave you as satisfied. So the oats, you might need to be adding something in there.
Full fat milk.
Yep. Yeah, something like that.
And what's your thinking, speaking of Eat Well, on the whole low fat?
Not so good.
Yeah, because it just raises up the sugar.
Because our body uses fat as a fuel source. Yeah,
exactly. So let's talk about you guys as a chiropractic practice. As we've mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's more about an overall wellness rather than specifically, looking at that particular health aspect.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you commonly encounter as wellness experts?
Yeah, so usually in our practice, we see a lot of people associated with kind of how they're really dealing and coping with stresses in their life, right? So kind of bearing in mind that some of these symptoms may kind of be a little bit different for certain people, but what we often see with people who are overstressed or have a lot of stress in their life kind of constantly is poor posture. Because they're in that kind of...
She says as she says.
Yeah. But when they're in that kind of fight and flight state, you're kind of basically telling your body that you need to protect yourself. So what then people end up doing is they incorporate this kind of hunched over type of posture. And
because the body naturally wants to protect its inner core.
Exactly right.
It's not really interested in your fingers and toes. It wants to... Yeah. So that's where the hunching comes from.
Yes, that's right. And for some people as well, they know how to sit up straight, they know how to stand up straight. But when they're in this state for such a long period of time, they actually find it really hard to keep themselves in that correct posture. And they kind of want to revert back into that kind of hunch over position because they're stuck in that kind of fight and flight type of state.
Yeah, so it's the accumulation of the stress plus not getting up and almost fusing yourself into that position, really.
Yeah, it's actually a lot. So when you kind of look at the brain, there's kind of quite a primal sort of primitive part of the brain. And one of those things, it's called the red nucleus, is to do with posture. So when the red nucleus is stimulated, we go into fight and flight and we go into that posture. So the more we stay in that posture, it's kind of that feedback loop of stimulating the red nucleus, which is fight or flight, stress, stress, stress. And if we can actually even spend some time actively coming out of that posture, we switch the red nucleus off.
And it's funny because I find that sometimes when you take really stressful phone calls, I like to get up and walk around. And not only, it's quite interesting actually, because not only does it change my voice, it makes me more authoritative. I can use my hands more and you know, be really
power poses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just doing things and walking around when you take phone calls, it gives you strength.
Yeah.
And it gets you out of that fight or flight kind of hunched over posture,
right.
doesn't it? It makes you stand up
There's
straight.
actually a really great TED talk that talks exactly what you said, power poses, and that's the same thing. It's the red nucleus. It's that the posture, that physical change in body position has feedback to the nervous system that actually changes the hormonal sort of distribution, everything that's happening.
So everyone out there who's listening today, let's do a little experiment. So every time you're taking a phone call from a client or you know, someone who might be a little bit stressful, try and do the walking around thing. And if you're in a particular office, go outside and walk around as well. It makes you sound like you're really busy too, because you're in between. I'm in between appointments and I'm just walking outside on the road.
And bring a pen and a paper just in case if you need to jot down some notes. And that's what I know some business owners do is whenever they have a phone call, they plug in their headphones, they go for a bit of walk, grab a pen and a paper, and away they go.
Yeah, indeed, because it gets a bit tricky when you're trying to take notes on your phone while you're on. You don't want to hang up on that person, for example.
Right.
So yeah, no, that's quite interesting. So some of the things that you see as symptomatic of the higher levels of stress specifically, things like poor posture, you mentioned headaches, neck pain, irritable, those sort of things.
Yeah, the thing with the body is those things, those painful, those symptom kind of things are your body trying to tell you that something's not quite right, something's not functioning at its best. And a lot of times that symptom or that pain is that last ditch effort by the body to let you know that, hey, this needs some attention.
And sometimes the body will literally fight against you. I have a friend of mine who works in a government position. She works really hard, and she has found that over years of poor posture and sitting in that position, her spine is starting to fuse. She's had some x-rays done and she's absolutely terrified because she's only 40 and she's just going, my God, my body's actually fighting against me to try and hold me up in that position and no longer allow me to, you know, hunch over.
And the body is being quite intelligent in doing that because from the information it's got, it's decided that's the smartest way to keep her going because that's what she needs to do. So it's actually pretty intelligent for the body to do that in the short term, but it just doesn't serve her very well over the long term at all.
Yeah.
So that's where that whole proactive versus reactive becomes so important about focusing on doing something before it's an issue like that because, understandably, she's is freaking out because that's kind of in that, well, what do I do now? How do I react to this? So
exactly, reactive, not great. Yeah. So one of the things somebody said to me a little while ago was that your body is not a vessel on which your head sits. It is not simply just there to move your brain around like some bizarre, you know, animated film with those big heads sitting on the teeny weeny little bodies. I mean, that's what we're heading towards. We have to work in conjunction with ourselves, really.
Everything has a purpose in the body.
Look, we're going to take a quick break here on Small Biz Matters. You're listening to Triple H 100.1. We will be back after this. And we're back in the room with Small Biz Matters, and I have now officially had my chair adjusted properly by Ingrid. Thank you. Now I know how to sit when I'm in the studio. I'm a proper. I like to sit on the edge of a chair, like maybe that. I don't know why that is, and now so I've just got to use that back support a little bit more.
Yes.
Okay. Lesson learned. I know how to adjust this chair now, which is good. So all of you out there who are listening to this program, have a think about how you're sitting. Have a think about where your lumbar support is. Is your bum towards the back of the chair? How's your posture? I, for one, have my microphone at exactly the correct level. Where should my arms be? 90-degree angles everywhere, feet flat on the floor.
That's the other one, actually, as we talk about that. Cross at the ankles, not at the knees, because then your pelvis stays nice and structured on the ground. So rather than a lot of people sit on their chair and cross their legs, because that's quite a comfortable position. But if you find that you tend to cross your legs, cross over at the ankles, tuck them back behind the chair.
Oh, that's okay, is it?
That's okay, yep.
Oh, thank
the
goodness.
pelvis is nice and flat on the chair then.
I can't cross my knees anymore because I've got varicose veins and they look really ugly. So I've broken that habit, but it's way too late.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about before the break about the symptomatic problems that you see as chiropractors with relation to stress. And then I mentioned that we had a family friend who's actually finding that her spine is fusing together because of her poor posture for hours at a time. So some of the things we talked about was breaking up your day at 40-minute intervals, go and do a wee, drink water, have standing phone conversations. So if you've got a phone call, always stand up. Just make that a thing. And try and have meetings. Walking meetings. Walking meetings are great too. So if you've got staff, actually go for a walking meeting around the block, and that really helps with everything as well. So is all lost? Like for my friend whose spine is now officially starting to fuse, is all hope lost for her? What can she do to sort of assist getting back into reactive mode, unfortunately? But what can she do? It's
a good question, because a lot of people do, and a lot of times in practice as well, a lot of people come to us at that point because they've kind of lived in that, well, I'll wait till something goes wrong to fix it. The really neat thing about the human body, and we all know this instinctively, but it is actually got this innate intelligence where it is self-healing and self-regulating. So obviously there's limitations to matter, so once we're kind of into that realm where maybe things have gone to a certain point, they're not going to come back from that, but our body doesn't just stop at that point. So there will be things in that case, of that extreme example, where it can kind of improve. It may not go back to what it is, but if we're not quite at that stage, then there's other things that it's definitely not all is lost. If you've been someone that sat for 8 hours, from now you can make those small changes, and it doesn't have to be going all out and getting that standing desk and overhauling your office space, but making those small changes into your day, you'll be surprised how quickly those things come into line.
Do you recommend things like, walking is obviously a good one, but yoga? Are you a fan of yoga?
Yes. Yep, it's really good. So you only get one spine. You can't sort of trade it out for another one. It's not one of those parts of the body. And so with that, yoga, stretching, all those kind of things are great spinal hygiene exercises. They're how the spine should move in a day-to-day basis. So they are great things to do, as well as really looking. So there's some functional sort of movements that our body is designed to do, but because of the way society's kind of trended, and we've got things like text neck now, which is from looking down at phones and texting, those kind of things.
I got that for a while because I don't know why I started using my phone a little bit more, and I found I got it. It's like, what?
Yeah, you got to bring that up to the eye level.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some things that we maybe don't do with our bodies these days, but they're actually functional movements of our body. So there's a couple of things that it can be a little bit of test. Always, don't push yourself beyond the limit that you should, but everybody should actually be able to do a full squat. So from a standing position down to a bottom down to the ground into a full squat should be a movement that everyone should be able to do.
So everyone get up, test yourselves right now. If you can't do that,
and if you can't do it, don't push it. But that's definitely one of those things that if you can't do that, then maybe the body isn't functioning at its best, and maybe it is a good time to think about getting your spine and nervous system checked to see how it is functioning, and then from that point you're well informed to make decisions about how to be proactive about it.
So take me through that checklist process that you guys would take someone through who is being proactive, who's done the squat and gone, oh God, my body's not 20 anymore. So what sort of things would a good chiropractor be searching for? Obviously, we always recommend people, when they're searching for a good chiropractor, you go through your local association and you find someone who's accredited.
Chiropractors Association of Australia.
And so tell me through that. What's that process?
So first and foremost, we need to obviously find out what's your history and what's been happening, throughout your life. Obviously getting a really good background in history of what's happened. In terms of examination, we'll look at kind of how you're moving, how you're functioning overall, from a spinal point of view, body point of view. And what we do particularly in our practice is we test the nervous system through functional movements and tests. So and that will give us an idea as to where your body is at. Obviously, if we require more information, we might also send you to take obviously some imaging if we require more information in that kind of regards.
And then is it just a matter of setting up a system of some daily exercises to try and improve that range of movement and improve the flexibility, for example?
Yes, 100%. So what we do is, besides obviously what we, as a chiropractor and the chiropractic treatment that we provide, we also give people, daily exercises, things that they can do outside of the office, because as we say, them coming in to see us is one of the aspects of helping them get back to where they need to be in living that proactive lifestyle. But majority of the battle is what they're doing outside there,
Yeah.
and making sure that they're not doing the things that have brought them into our practice in the first place.
That's right.
So,
And it's not those 5 minutes that you're spending in your chiropractor's office. It's about all that time that is outside.
That's right, yeah.
Indeed. And particularly when, as we were discussing earlier, when you're in the workplace as well. So that's what to expect if you go to a good chiropractor. Now let's talk about as small business owners, we often have people working for us. I met a builder a few months ago who he said, I love this. He said, I don't have 6 people working for me. I have 6 families that I look after. And I thought that was a really lovely thing. And again, something that we excel at as small business owners is looking after our staff and nurturing them and making sure we've got them for the long term, because who can afford to retrain someone every 6 months?
Yeah.
So let's talk about being a better employer. What are some top tips you've got for employment?
Well, going to that family model, I think a lot of the times in families, and if you've got sort of a lot of the time it's the mum leading the way in terms of that. If she's not healthy herself and making sure that she's taking care of herself, then the family kind of follows on from that. And same with an employer to the employees, making sure that first and foremost that you're looking after yourself to be there for your employees when you need to be, but then also those same things that you're doing for yourself that we've kind of touched on, some tips and pointers, that's accessible for your employees as well.
Yes.
So whatever you're putting in place for yourself, make sure that they've got that,
Yeah.
and you might need to make some changes ergonomically to make sure that they're being cared for, because you've got responsibilities.
Yeah, because you as the business owner, you're really the leader, right? So you really want to lead by example, and also focusing on basically creating a healthy environment for everyone. Because if you have healthy employees, then you're gonna have a healthier team. Then ends up making your business being more productive.
Of course,
more
less sick
efficient.
days.
100%,
Awesome.
yeah.
And the other thing is, I think what you were mentioning about leading from the front as well. I think as small business owners, when we say, oh, okay, I need to employ someone, I just need to employ another me. And that's not true. You're not going to be able to achieve that. But also maybe you need to look at yourself and realise how hard you're working. Because if you bring people on and you say to them essentially in the way, you might not say this directly, but indirectly you might say, look, I expect you to work as hard as I do. And if you're not, then I'm disappointed. They're not going to. They're not emotionally invested in this like you are.
Yep.
But at the same time, if you had everyone working as hard as we do as small business owners, you would burn out of people within months.
Yep.
And you'd have to churn through employers. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. It doesn't make sense for yourself,
No.
but also for when you're taking on staff to just make them work as hard as you do. It's not right.
Yeah, and it's not sustainable either.
Yes.
So when you look at that big picture, if you're kind of on that model, it's going to fizzle out very quickly. So yeah, and I think in that sense, it's very much about, as Louise said, creating that healthy environment, and as the employer, putting those things there. So you want them to drink more water and get up and do those things more
But
often.
don't buy water.
Yeah.
Don't buy a bottle of water, please. I hate those bottled waters. It's such a waste of plastic and everything. Just go to the tap.
Yeah, that's
We
it.
live in Sydney, not Bangladesh. It's fine. You can drink water out of the tap.
Yeah.
Sorry, it just bugs me.
And that's it, providing that, so that's an option there to have that there, and they know that that's a big thing, that they're allowed to take a break from the desk, from their work, to go and do those things, and it's not frowned upon or those kind of things.
Because we didn't used to frown on smokos.
Well, yeah, that's
That's
it.
right.
Although they were going out to smoke a cigarette, they were leaving the office and getting fresh air, ironically.
Vitamin D, maybe.
Yeah. But we didn't actually, say that was a bad thing, but yet we're balking at this whole leaving the office, going and getting lunch, having a half-hour break, heaven forbid. I remember when I was working in the UK as a teacher, I would be one of the only teachers in the whole... I used to have my colleagues say, we're going to the staff room now, you're taking a break. Because we as Australians, we eat lunch at our desk.
Yeah.
What is that? Where did that happen? Apart from the fact that digestively,
Not so great.
shockingly bad, and not getting up and moving out of your, apart from going to the fridge to get the food in the microwave. So you also mentioned when we chatted walking, talking meetings. I
Yeah.
love that. So how does that work?
Yeah, well, it's actually, there's research that shows that it's more productive when you're actually active and out there doing it. So the brain is more stimulated from that physical kind of notion of actually walking, and so ideas are more free flowing. But also you get to have that outdoor vitamin D, leave the office, that creativity, or that kind of is at an all-time high. So it's just a matter of, as the employer, creating that structure or encouraging those things to happen. And they're pretty easy to put in place, really. It's let's go for a walk, and then we'll talk about that out there. So
yeah, and not just get a coffee, but actually walk as well, not just walk down to the coffee shop and back again.
That's it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And also, I have an employee, one of my clients actually, he's a software company, and they have 3 additional days they give their staff. So as well as having standard annual leave, and this is not a cheap thing because they've got 30 staff.
Yeah.
They give them 3 extra days each, which don't roll over. They sort of each year they get an extra 3,
Great.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's awesome.
really going to make you keep onto your employees. And there's nothing more expensive for a business than going through employees and having to retrain and all the works and all that sort of stuff, plus the admin costs of getting them and leaving them, people leaving and people coming again.
Yeah.
So there's lots to think about there. Let's just to recap, we've talked about living well. Sorry, no, I'm getting it wrong again. Think well, eat well, move well.
Yeah.
So moving well, and again, you have to apply these concepts to your staff. So think about your ergonomics, think about getting them to get up and move, eating well, what sort of nutrition and fuel are you giving them, and it's not an expensive exercise to give them some extra little things that are lying around the office. Make sure you got herbal teas so they're not just grabbing the caffeine as well.
Yep.
And I suppose just leading by example, very important as an employer as well.
And nowadays as well, a lot of big companies, big corporate companies are also doing health and wellness days and things like that. So there are health professionals out there that are providing more information to help educate their employees on how to live a healthier and more proactive lifestyle. And that's something that we do here in our practice as well, is we love to work with local businesses and help them, educate them on how to create a healthy environment so they can focus on doing what they love doing, which is basically their business and working on their business.
I think a lot of employers, small businesses, don't realise that they have actually an obligation to train their staff. And they forget that, day-to-day training or learning software on the job. There's lots of different ways that you can train staff, and training them in living well and eating well. Maybe get a yoga instructor in for the day and get them to show them to do some stretching. Tell everyone to bring their sneakers on the day, and get someone in to sort of overhaul the office in terms of ergonomics as well. That's another option. And getting some health professionals in. So what sort of health professionals? Yoga instructors. We could have people like you, some chiropractors come in to talk about stretching and wellness and all the eat well, live well.
Yeah, so a popular workplace talks that we do is a spinal health talk. Another one is what we call stress for success. So talking about, what we've been talking about today is really kind of the impacts of stress and how can we strengthen the body to cope and deal with stresses in our life.
And a really popular one is the sit right talk. So that's focusing on all the ergonomics that we've gone through today and kind of showing as well, because sometimes that visual is really important, as we kind of found in the break with actually doing your chair. We could describe it all we liked, but what it required was getting up and changing it.
It did, yes. And I haven't moved my bottom since.
That's very good.
Awesome.
I'm scared to move my bottom. So look, thank you so much for coming on the show today, guys. It's been awesome. And of course, for our listeners, if you've missed any of today's show, you can listen to the blogs and podcasts. All of our blogs and podcasts are available on the smallbizmatters.com.au website. And of course, there you can find out about our admin hubs as well. Now, this is another great way it's particularly for small business owners who are sort of stuck at home, looking at the same 4 walls, isolated. They don't have staff, they don't have colleagues that work with them. What we do here at Small Biz is we have once a month on the second Wednesday of each month at 9:30am, sponsored by Event Cinemas. We go to their conference room and we basically just sit and do work. But we do it in a collegial, supported environment. You've got access to me as a BAS agent for free, which is awesome. And people just sit down and do work. But it's about being in that supportive environment and thinking well. So you're not just sort of stuck staring at what can sometimes just be a wall. Because, I'm not even very good at putting pictures of my kids on the wall at the moment. So, so it's very important to factor all those things in. Look, thank you very much for coming on the show, guys. Can you tell us a little bit where they can find out more information about your practice?
Yeah, so they can pop onto our website, which is www.completehealthchiro.com.au. We've got a Facebook page as well they can find us on, and Instagram. So, we love our social media.
You have to.
Yeah. So,
what was the name of that app again?
The Straighten Up app.
Straighten Up.
So they can search that up, and they can can go onto our association to find that out as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Look, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you, guys.
Thank
okay.
you.
And we'll see you all next week on Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it.